Just circle. Well, hey, Doc, how are you?
Great. We're live again.
We are live again. I can't believe we're actually making this thing happen. We set a goal and here we are doing our weekly lives. So super excited to join you again today. I know last time we started getting like really diving into metabolism, especially as we age, 30s, 40s, just really trying to figure out what's happening there, like what is shifting as we get into that premenopausal. And we're talking specifically women. I know that's really your market. I do work with men, but I know for both of us, women in that 30 to 40-year age bracket are really starting to see some downregulation of hormones, are really starting to see how our muscle mass and our body fat distribution is changing. And it's frustrating. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is we started last time talking about when people come to both of us, it's after they've tried so many other things and tried and failed, or maybe even had success, but temporary success, right? I mean, would you agree that's kind of where you start to get people coming into your pipeline when they just say, okay, there's got to be an answer.
Yep. Most of the patients that I see have done Jenny Craig Weight Watchers multiple times, paleo diets, keto diets. Then they've done fasting, and the trend is it works. When they say it works, they lose some weight and then they gain it back because they never really learned how their body works. And I have a person. We have three big pillars that I work someone through. But the first thing we do is reset someone's fat furnace, I call them. So turn the fat furnace back on. And then I show people how to overcome sugar dopamine addiction.
Okay. Yep.
The
Yep.
step 3 is boosting metabolism. So that's actually the third step we do. So that's an important piece. I guess really a nice place to start would be,
Yeah.
why would someone want to have a healthy metabolism? Because I actually have watched a lot of patients say, yeah, why do I want a good metabolism? Like, why would you want that, doc?
Well, and I think there's just a misconception. I think right now, the research, the Instagram reels, all the things are about muscle, 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 protein, protein, protein. And yes, those are essential components of naturally boosting your metabolism, but that's a long game. Like, it's not like Popeye, wake up, eat spinach, have muscles. And I think that's what the industry is trying to convince people. You eat protein, you go do a couple little strength classes, and you're going to start building muscle. And I think we need to be really mindful of how we're setting people's expectations up around the muscle mass building process, because yes, that's a natural way to boost your metabolism, but it takes a long time. And so, there are other ways I think that are more immediate impacts, like you're saying about the sugar, and just becoming a little bit more mindful of what type of fuel you're using for daily activity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so that's that important question. First of all, the why. I want to answer that before we really go into the how, because so many people think, I've been hearing that since I was a kid. I ate a lot. And then my mom, dad said, you know what, when you turn in your 20s, that'll slow down. Didn't slow down. In my 20s, I heard, you know what, in your 30s, that'll slow down.
Yeah, watch it now. That's right.
Yeah. Then I heard, yeah, in your 40s, it'll slow down. Hasn't slowed down. Right. And so it's interesting because there's a perception of, if you slow down, you become unhealthy. Yeah, your metabolism slows down. So why do we want healthy metabolism? There's a few reasons really why. Your body functions at its best. So like, even if you have a faster metabolism, your body burns more calories at a resting rate. That's an important piece. This actually helps people create a healthy weight balance. With a higher metabolism or a healthy metabolism, you've got more energy. You have a better gut health. So you have better nutrient absorption. That's an important piece that I don't think people really realize. With a slower metabolism, you don't absorb as many nutrients, right? One of the things that I specialize in is balanced hormones. There's a big link between hormone regulation and your metabolism. You mentioned with a higher metabolism, it does preserve, it's been shown to preserve lean muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
Higher healthy metabolism also helps to detoxify. Your body can actually detoxify. So if there's 82,000 chemicals in our food, water, and air, your body can actually detoxify from those things a lot easier with the healthier metabolism. So besides the immune system and mental clarity, I could go on and on, but
Sure.
that would be the whys I'd love to put out there to people.
Yeah, well, and I think the flip side of that is also true, right? I mean, if you have more muscle, your metabolism will be more efficient and higher. So, you're not only is what you're eating benefiting your muscle mass, but your muscle mass is benefiting how you absorb and utilize and benefit from the food you're eating. So
Yeah.
it just is, it's a definite correlation there. And I think that I love that the industry is being more mindful to push that focus, but I also do think people need to understand like what that looks like to boost your basal metabolic rate, which is essentially what we're talking about, right? There's several components to your basal metabolic rate, but your body composition is the absolute number one driver of that. Because
Nice.
the leaner you are at rest, the more efficient you are just sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's based on how much muscle mass we have. And then, of course, like you said, you can talk about, non-exercise calorie expenditure, the thermic effect of food, which is kind of what you're talking about, right? Like how we digest and process and how we burn calories just absorbing nutrients. And the more efficient you are at that, then you're getting some benefit there. So, yeah, I'd be curious your thoughts on that. Like, is that kind of what you're saying when you talk about how we absorb and digest and how efficient we are at actually utilizing the foods and the liquids that we're consuming?
Yeah, I mean, literally, literally, a stronger or healthy metabolism because it supports your gut health. It basically that ensures your body. It actually, literally, I've watched this. It ensures your body to absorb nutrients just even through the digestive tract. And
Mm,
just to remind people, your digestive system, it's made of many types of tissue, but muscle is how the muscles actually move food through your digestive tract, right?
that's right.
So we could do an entire training, which I would love to do in a bunch of these and lives on muscle mass. We could absolutely do that so people understand the reality behind this. But yes, that's part of what I'm saying. Even it's wild because I'll even notice insulin, thyroid hormones, cortisol. A lot of those will be thrown off when your metabolism is slow.
Mm,
And I want to I want to say this because I've noticed this is with women specifically. I don't know how many men have this, so you can tell me. But with women, I've noticed that there's a linkage in our society over the last 30 years. The mass teaching has been that you want to suppress your appetite. Appetite suppressants, caffeine does it. Most of the weight loss drugs, that's what they're doing,
sure.
suppressing your appetite. So there's a misconception now, a lack of education of as if suppressing your appetite or as if appetite is the source of your weight gain or unhealthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to bring that up because I think some people, when we have this conversation, when we talk about metabolism, I think they're associating now with, okay, I should have a slower metabolism because don't I want to suppress my appetite? And so, do you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah, there's a counterintuitive, like, and so
No, yeah,
it's making them raise it, right?
I think that because so many people struggle with hunger and fullness cues, we've talked about the leptin and the ghrelin, the hormones that manage and regulate how we feel full or hungry. Those are disrupted in most people due to history of dieting or disordered eating behaviors or just lack of willpower, and thus they have not listened to fullness for so many years that they have
Mhm.
created a stress response, an addiction type response.
Mhm.
But I do feel like for a lot of people that they think that being hungry is not okay too. It's like I always have to eat when I'm hungry. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes you're just hungry. But that doesn't mean you have to go eat every time you're hungry. And sometimes you eat when you're full because it's a snack and you just want to have it and you're not necessarily hungry, but it's just exciting and it's a birthday and you're going to have some cake even though you're already full, you know? So I think societally there's a little bit of miseducation there, but also I just think human behavior tends to be more immediate gratification of whatever I want in this moment versus just needing to be and not always respond to immediately whether you're hungry or full.
Yeah, I love this because you and I are getting to, because it's fun to come from different backgrounds and getting to talk full circle. Because to me, if people listen to this, just listening to our lives, I promise you, you will learn more listening to these lives between Dr. Tiff and I than you've probably learned in the last 30 years about nutrition and health. And certainly more than you've learned by going to your doctor. When's the last time you've gone to your doctor and said, hey, right, I would like to learn about nutrition? You don't ask them. So I want to address something you talked about, which is really good. Let's talk about hunger, because I want to give a little bit of background with this. So I make sure I make sure people tap into their hunger, but there's a distinction here. If you don't reset your hormones, your hunger mechanism is off.
Correct.
So that's what's really interesting. So let's help you with this. From let's say, you know, sugar and fat are fuel sources that your body can use, and especially during moments of stress is what I've noticed. If the leptin and ghrelin, there's a few other hormones that do this, but if your body's become a sugar burning machine, it's literally like leaving, because that's why fat stays on us. It's interesting. Sugar tricks the brain into thinking you're not actually full. So in that sense, you couldn't listen to your hunger, right? Like you were saying, he's like, well, I can't tell someone, well, I couldn't tell, like someone's listening to go, just go eat when you're hungry. Well, are you a sugar burner or a fat burner? Because it's interesting. When you burn fat, you feel full. So it's nice to make that little distinction. This is why people can eat a box of donuts, but you can't eat a box of steaks. I mean, sugar literally tricks your brain, and you can't tell, am I hungry or full, right? It just screws up this mechanism. So I usually wait about 14 days into my program before I start having people tune into hunger, because before that, it's completely off. So there's a little distinction there, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and that I think similarly for me, when people talk about intuitive eating.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
You can't be intuitive until you know what your body needs from a carbohydrate, fat, protein standpoint. You've got to do some data digging. You've got to be tracking for a while. Do you want to be attached to an app for the rest of your life? Absolutely not. But in my opinion, like, you've got to educate yourself on, like, okay, what does a day of eating for my body, for my training volume, for my goals, what does that look like and feel like? And then I can be intuitive about it in 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, however long it takes you to really, again, reset hunger and fullness and say, okay, this is a reasonable amount of food given what I'm trying to ask of my body. But I think people just don't want to dive into the data sometimes either, or reset the things. Like you said, do the work to reset. They just want the result. Well, they're chasing down the rabbit hole because they can't until they reset before they start to really rebuild. So I think that you and I have different approaches to that same process. Like, you've got to do some front end work, get all the things working right before you can then get results. But that takes patience. Most people don't have a lot of patience when they've been frustrated.
That's why you hire someone to help you in this case. Like either you or I in this area. You know, I actually wrote down, there's a topic I'm going to put to another time, is that what you mentioned to me the other day about intuitive eating versus, you know, actually just planning it out. Let's make that an entire topic.
Yeah,
because I couldn't wait to dive into that with you.
Sure.
I know our topic here is right with the natural ways to boost metabolism. So now we know why we want to do that. Let's go through some things of brainstorming. How do I do that? Now we know why we want it. How do we do it?
Well, and I think we talked about one is just kind of reestablishing the types of foods that you're eating. I mean, I think personally, I've seen that when people are eating the same calories from low quality foods, their metabolism is not as efficient at processing, absorbing, utilizing, right? And I know that's a big deal for you too, of like cleaning out the pantry, purging the pantry a little bit. But I can see someone eat the same calorie intake, same macro distribution, but clean up the quality of what they're eating, and their body is way more responsive. And I'm trying to dive deeper and deeper with people on that, because I know it's, to me, I think it feels unsustainable to feel like you can't ever eat a protein bar or ever grab a pre-made shake from the gas station on a road trip. Like, you have situations, but I think when you can, you've got to try to make that quality choice, because I do think that's a natural way to improve the way your body metabolizes food.
Well, let's just play off of that. Let's just say it this way: processed foods slow metabolism and cause inflammation.
Absolutely.
So when you stick to whole foods, I gotta say, I was a bodybuilder in my early 20s. I did natural bodybuilding. I took every supplement known to man. I tried it all. My gut was terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
And here's what I found. It's of course natural bodybuilding, so I wasn't taking hormones and testosterone and stuff. And so I did something. I was in chiropractic school at the time, by the way, and I was like, what happens if I just eat real food? Literally, I just had that thought. What happens if I eat real food? And I went back, I started eating broccoli and steak, and I got rid of the protein shakes. Even the protein shakes, got rid of them because there's so much crap inside them.
Yeah.
Even the ones that say they're good. And what happened was not only my gut transformed, my body transformed. And so I want to say this to people listening to this, because stick to real food, to whole foods. I mean, it's funny because it's the simple vegetables, even fruits, nuts, seeds, grass-fed meats, fish. I have found that nutrition really doesn't come from a bottle. Start first with what God put on this planet, when Mother Nature is trying to create for us. So just to play off of that, that is something that's important, that processed foods slow digestion, cause inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Whole foods allows your digestion to work properly like it's supposed to, and it actually reduces inflammation.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. So for me, that would be the low-hanging fruit, that everyone has access to that.
True,
and
true.
So to me, that's one of the quickest, easiest switches or swap outs that you could make, is just saying, okay. And, again, pick your poison. Like, maybe you can't do it all right now, but can you start not eating lunch meat and make some chicken breasts? Can you start, not eating a pre-made shake, but making your own protein shake with protein powder, which is at least a step in the right direction, and then move off of that. So I think depending on where you are in your journey and your process, like, you can work towards that and find some easy swap outs.
Yeah, I like how you said that. That's the low-hanging fruit. It's like, isn't that the easiest thing we can do? Now, let's kind of back people up a little bit here. American food companies have not made it easy, because everything is just loaded full of sugar.
Yeah.
And you really need to be educated in food labels this day and age. But I heard, you probably heard this before, Doc, but someone was like, hey, if you just, this is like the most simple suggestion, but if you were to just only shop around the outside of the grocery and not go in the aisles, I was like, yes. Why? Because that's where things have to be cold.
That's right. Right. I always say that. People are like, what do you think about these protein shakes, the pre-made off the shelf? I'm like, the fact they can sit on the floor of the grocery store unrefrigerated for months at a time, that right there makes me a little concerned about what is in them, like how they are actually like a liquid in the aisle of the grocery store. But yeah, I think, you look at it, it's like anything that doesn't have a food label is fair game.
Yeah, right? That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like
that.
Yeah,
like fruit, veggies, they don't have a food label. Of course, meat does, but like there's not, necessarily any ingredients on that food label. It's just the poundage and the nutritional information. But if it doesn't have, or if it has 1 to 2 ingredients, like, of course, you're going to have to go like get oatmeal or get brown rice or get, in a whole wheat pasta that's going to be in a box with a food label. But again, the most minimal of ingredient lists is always going to be, because you think about it, this way I explain it, like the longer the list, the harder you're working to get up to the top of that list, which is where the main source of nutrition is, because the first thing on the list is the most essential part of that food. So if the list is super long, you're like asking your body and your metabolism to work so hard to get up to that whole wheat, whatever it is at the top of the list. So the shorter the list, the better, for sure.
Good point. That's a great way to look at that. So we've talked about, that's one way. I do want to bring up, you talked about some of the trends in social media about building muscle, but I do want to mention this is like really building muscle from the right way to do this, because, muscle, and we know muscle burns more calories than fat, even at rest.
Right.
And I so encourage people to build muscle. There's so many reasons behind this, but we'll do a whole probably live on this, but you literally have extra fuel tanks in your body when you have more muscle. There's no other way to say it. Like, so your liver, with its glycogen storages, a person that has, less muscle mass, glycogen can actually be stored inside the muscle. So it's interesting because the more muscle you have, it's almost as if you were to go outside and strap extra fuel tanks to the outside of your car. And now all of a sudden you drive the same car as the person next to you, but you can drive twice as fast or twice as far. And I like that example. So muscle, I mean, I even just saw this, I don't know if you saw this recent study, but they're linking now to your quads, to the muscle mass in your quads. They can almost predict now how the quality of the last 20 years of your life and the length of your life. So the more muscle mass in your quads, the longer, more quality life you have. And I think they chose that because, of course, it's one of the biggest. Yeah. So it's kind of a representation of all the muscle in your body, I guess, is what they did.
Yeah, you would assume if somebody has big quads, they have probably just a lot of muscle in general, or genetically speaking, which is just a bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, because when we eat food, what happens is the food, as it gets digested, it raises our blood sugar levels, right? So as blood sugar rises, and of course, the more carb and the more refined and the higher volume, the more drastic and immediate. So those blood sugar levels rise, and then pancreas comes in with insulin and says, hey, let's bring those blood sugar levels back down. And so you got 3 storage tanks. When insulin comes in, it can shuttle it to muscle storage, which you mentioned, to liver storage. And if liver's full and muscle's full, where's it going? Body fat. That's the third, right? So if you've got more muscle, you've got more room for that insulin to store, right? And you've got, again, if you've exercised and you've reduce the glycogen storage in the muscle, the next time you eat, you have somewhere to put it. So there's so many things that you can do to free up space for that next meal or for that increase in blood sugar. But if you're sedentary and you don't have a lot of muscle mass and you're eating high carb, highly refined, high volume foods, then insulin cannot work hard enough. And even if it does, it doesn't have anywhere to store it. So that's body fat, just a little at a time, right? So yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, so many things you can do from a nutrition standpoint, from a muscle mass exercise standpoint, that can help to be more efficient at utilizing that glycogen that you're consuming.
I like what you just said. I think that someone could rewind and listen to that again to understand what you just said about, what we talked about, just where does that come from? Where are the storage tanks? Liver, right? And then we go, okay, I've got muscle, so I've got a storage tank. And it's interesting because you go, if I don't have that muscle storage tank, it's got to be stored somewhere. And fat is actually the most efficient. It's an interesting, because there's a process called, let me see if I get this right. It's de novo lipogenesis. It might be novo lipogenesis. It's so fascinating. It's the process of your body taking sugar and converting it to fat. And
interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'd never read this in school, and I read it in text. I actually started researching. It was like, it's almost like, that's like you and I going to the gas station and pumping, 80 octane. But when it goes in your car turns it into 110 octane.
Yeah.
The reason your body converts sugar into fat is because fat is 9 calories per gram versus sugar or carbohydrate protein is 4. So
Mhm.
how amazing, just think about this. How amazing and loving is your body by storing fat? It's loving because it knows if I have a double the energy unit storage, I'm going to survive. So I want people to understand that is that your body's storing fat. It's doing it to love you.
Mm.
It thinks it's like, hey, I got to survive. And then when we combine that with, it's a whole other conversation. When we combine that with people under eating, your body's going to love you extra and say, this person's in a famine. Let's add more fat to storage so we have because so they can survive. So there's a whole conversation
Yeah.
in on that in its own, right?
Well,
But
right, the metabolic adaptation, right? Like you're going to your metabolism is going to slow down if you're not giving it enough energy, or you're dieting, or you're in a calorie deficit, or for whatever reason there's a famine, right? And so it's not going to burn any more than it has to just to conserve energy. And like you said, then it is going to prioritize fat storage because it doesn't know what is going on. It's in starvation mode, it's in protection mode, it's in survival mode, and it's like we need energy because we're
yeah,
not getting any from the food we're consuming. So we want to make sure we can survive for the next winter.
yeah,
I
true.
mean, essentially go
Exactly.
back to true,
The next
human
famine.
biology. Yeah.
Exactly. That's where I love bringing it back to. So I know we have about 3 or 4 more minutes. I'm going to say a few things, other things that would be good. Hydration. Like water is essential for metabolic function. So even mild dehydration can slow metabolism. So we make sure our patients, when we're going through this process, we have them drink half their body weight in ounces of water.
Absolutely.
And then and also want to mention sleep. We could do probably a few weeks on sleep,
Yeah.
but I don't think people realize they don't realize it because listen, the word doctor literally means teacher. We are not teaching people.
Mm.
Our society, our medical system is not teaching. You're not learning anything. We're not teaching anything. But to understand that your sleep can disrupt hormones like cortisol and insulin,
Mhm.
even the reproductive hormones. But when a woman goes to the doctor, instead of saying, "Hey, how's your sleep? How's the stress?" Like instead of educating you, it's easier to just sell you a product. So you're a customer of the
Right.
system. So I might sound a little jaded, but sleep and hydration are two big things in this metabolic conversation.
Absolutely. Well, and then we typically we may drink water, probably not half our body weight, most of us.
Yeah,
But then we drink coffee and we drink alcohol and we drink energy drinks and we drink sodas, all of which are diuretics. So you might be drinking the water, but then you're dehydrating yourself, also drinking other things and not typically putting them back in the system. So I think we have to think about, yes, half our body weight plus offsetting anything
caffeine.
else we might be
Yeah,
drinking that's dehydrating us.
point.
But yeah, that's a great point. Sleep and hydration for sure are the big ones. So just to recap, so again, if people are watching this back, or right, we talked about the natural boosters for metabolism. We talked about muscle mass being one, and just really emphasizing body composition and getting more storage tanks. I love that analogy. Like now I'm
So
picturing
good.
myself walking around with like extra fuel
Hell
tanks
yeah. Hell
filling the
yeah.
water in. So
Yep.
extra fuel tanks, hydration, sleep, and quality of food. I think those are the four
Yeah.
biggest natural metabolism boosters: is eating whole foods, drinking, getting sleep, and making sure you're putting your body composition in a great space to be
Yeah.
efficient.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good summary. Good wrap up. Yeah, I really love these conversations. These are, to me, there's $7 to $10 million a month spent on advertising how your body cannot function on its own. I think we're rewiring this. We're actually educating. We're teaching. Like, listen, this is how your body actually works. If I could go back and change what we do in school, I would teach this back in starting at a very young age, probably 6, 7 years old. Because if you know how your body works, you will be freaking amazed. So hopefully this has helped you guys. So, but I'm
Absolutely.
excited to do more of these.
Yeah, Doc, it's good seeing you. And we'll be back next week, Thursdays at lunch hour. noon
Yes.
Central. So y'all put it on your calendars. Thanks.
Awesome.
All
See you,
right.
Doc.
See ya.